Thank you. Thank you, Vikas. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Head and everyone else on the call for taking out time today for this particular session. We are really excited to have you all here. I am Abhinav. I take care of business for Silverfort in India and SARC. And it's my pleasure to introduce our CEO and co-founder, Head, for this session. I assure you, next 45-50 minutes will be very useful for all the gentlemen here from CISO and CIO community. These are very exciting times in identity security, business and industry, both in terms of protection, compliance, and your specific company goals. So it's our pleasure to host everyone here. Some of you know us, some of you will be listening to us for the first time. But I assure you, next 45 minutes from our CEO co-founder will be very useful. He'll be sharing his journey. He'll be talking about our unique identity security platform, and we make sure that you go away with very valuable info in identity security. So with that, I'll hand it over to our CEO and co-founder, Hed Kovetz. Hed, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining. It's really a pleasure to have this chance to talk to all of you about our company and about identity security in general. So I'll share my screen with a few slides, but I'll start from telling you a bit about how I started this company and the journey of really getting to focus on this problem and to building this solution. So we started the company 8 years ago in 2016. Me and my co-founders, we all had background in cybersecurity, both doing cybersecurity in the industry, but also being on the other side of doing cyber offense for government organizations. So we had understanding of how attackers think as well as how defenders think. And one of the things that was very clear to us is that identity in many cases is the weakest link in enterprise security, meaning that the easiest way for an attacker to get into a corporate network and to spread inside a corporate network is using stolen identities. Because if I have a stolen identity, if I have your username and your password, if I can make myself look like you, then I can really log in through the front door. I don't need to bypass any of the sophisticated security controls that you have. I can really use this stolen identity to log in through the door and bypass all of these controls. And it's becoming very hard for organizations to really tell the difference between the real legitimate users and people who might have stolen their identities. It's becoming more and more difficult, especially today where people might be working from anywhere. It's not just from the physical office anymore, but especially now, after COVID, people might be working from many different locations and using different devices. So it was clear to us that identity security is a huge problem. It was also clear to us that the way it's solved today is not enough, especially because identity security was always designed to protect only the perimeter and only the VPN access and maybe a few cloud applications. It was never designed to protect access of anything to anything within the corporate environment. But that's what is required today. And what we were trying to understand is how to design identity security in a new, modern way to be able to protect all the identities and all the systems. Now, of course, in order to do that, we had to invent a new technology because many corporate systems don't support modern identity security. We had to find a way to bring identity security everywhere. And this is what I will show you today. I'll show you what are the challenges that we found and what is the unique way that we were able to build this product in order to really bring identity security everywhere, or as we call it, to bring unified identity protection to all the different systems in the company. So I'll tell you a bit about the company itself, because over the last 8 years, we did build something that I'm very proud of. We were able to build a company that today has employees in almost 20 different countries, and raise a substantial amount of money. So we just a few months ago finished our Series D round of funding. Overall, we raised $220 million. Most of it we still have, so the company for the next few years can really continue to grow as fast as we did until now. The business itself is also growing very fast. We're adding more than 100 new customers every quarter. That includes some of the largest companies in the world. So some of the largest companies in areas like retail, telco, banking, manufacturing. The largest companies in the world in these industries are today our customers. We also are very proud of the team that we built. Abhinav here leads our India business, and we have people in many countries that I think are really the reason for our success. We are very proud of having very good employee retention. Less than 2% of our employees leaving every year. And the reason why this is important also to our customers is because this obviously ensures that we provide good service with a lot of people that like what they do and that work well as a team. So this is a bit about the company. I'm happy, by the way, to answer questions. So if you have any questions about the company or about the next things I will show, the product, feel free to ask them in the chat. Either my team will be able to answer or they can ask me, and I will save time for questions at the end. So anything you want to ask me today or even connect afterwards, I'm happy to. So now let me explain a bit about the challenges that we wanted to solve in Silverfort. So when we looked at identity security, which again we believe is the critical area of security today, especially with people working from anywhere and using any devices, identity security is really the last line of defense in many companies. Because if I can log in from anywhere in the world using any device that is not even a corporate device, and as long as I can prove that this is me, I'm part of your virtual environment, part of your organization, it means that identity is really the last line of defense. But identity security suffers from a lot of blind spots, areas where we don't have real security today. And some of these blind spots are critical systems and protocols that don't support multi-factor authentication. I'm sure you all know that multi-factor authentication is a very effective way to secure identities and log in. The problem is that multi-factor authentication is mostly available for modern applications, but there are some critical systems that are just older and they don't support it. The second issue is around non-human identities, service accounts. Okay, these are accounts that are used by machines to connect to other machines. So there is not even a person to do multi-factor authentication. So how do you protect them? Another problem is around privileged access. So privileged access, those are your admins, right? The users that can really cause the most damage. And even though there are a lot of solutions that are trying to protect them, those solutions were really designed 20 years ago. And the way they're achieving it is so complex and so difficult to achieve that it's usually implemented very partially. But also, attackers learned how to bypass these security controls. And then underneath all of this, there's a major gap in visibility. So a lot of companies don't even know about these other blind spots because they don't even have visibility into their identity stack and the issues in it. So let's spend a minute on each of these just to understand what is really the problem and how to overcome it. So the first problem was around multi-factor authentication, right? So a lot of companies are already using multi-factor authentication with solutions like the Microsoft MFA product or the Okta MFA product or things like Duo and RSA. There are a lot of solutions out there for many years. But there are some critical systems that still authenticate with legacy authentication, especially things that use Active Directory. And those things just don't support multi-factor authentication. I'm talking about things like command line tools, PowerShell and WMI and things like that. Admin console that manage your backup, your virtualization platforms, your storage, file systems and databases. Those are also things that you cannot really put MFA on today. Legacy applications, legacy business applications that are just old and they don't support anything except the password. And then just IT and OT infrastructure. So there are a lot of different things that don't support multi-factor authentication. Attackers know it and they take advantage of it. So 82% of ransomware attacks take advantage of these exact interfaces and protocols in order to spread across the network. This is why ransomware can move between devices, because it uses legacy command line tools and file share protocols in order to spread. Otherwise, ransomware wouldn't really be able to cause damage. This is not just a security problem, but for many companies, it's also a compliance issue, either with regulations or with cyber insurance requirements that ask you to put MFA on all these systems. So it's a big problem. The second problem that we see in many organizations, I think is even bigger sometimes, is around service accounts, which are the non-human identities. For many years, people were trying to use privileged access management solutions to protect them. Basically, the idea was to take those identities and to rotate their passwords. Every 30 days or every 90 days, just change the password. I think people learned over time that this is, first of all, too complex to do because you don't really know where the service account is being used. So sometimes if you change the password, some other applications are going to stop working. They're going to break because the service account is also used in other places that you didn't know about. So a lot of people are afraid to even touch those accounts. But also people learned that a lot of these service accounts, you don't even know about all of them. Some of them are not even official service accounts. You don't even know where they're being used. And what we hear from a lot of companies that even if they tried to do password rotation for these accounts, they got stuck very early in this journey. So most of these accounts in most of companies are not protected today. And this also relates to the last blind spots, which is around privileged access. A lot of people try to implement PAM solutions, but based on a survey from last year that Osterman Research did, only about 10% of companies are really fully implemented with a PAM solution. Most companies are stuck somewhere in the journey because it's just so hard to do. But more importantly, a lot of companies learned that even if they have a PAM solution, it's not really fully protecting them because what a lot of admin users are doing is they are connecting to the PAM solution. They're checking out, they're taking the privileged credentials from there, and then they're just using them directly to go to the servers. So this means that you have a password vault, you have a PAM solution, but it's actually not really protecting you because the admins are going around it. They're taking the passwords out of the PAM and they're going directly to the servers. And obviously attackers then do the same. So I think that it's time for a new approach. We need to find a way to protect access anywhere, not only when it's done through a PAM solution, not only when it's using a modern protocol, but really finding a better way to protect anything that authenticates or accesses in the network, both on-prem and in the cloud. And more importantly, we have to make it easy. Identity security, if it's going to be so complex, then most companies will never be able to achieve it, and then attackers will win. So part of the goal is also how do we make identity security easy and quick? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. The last thing I'll say before we talk about the solution is why is it even important? Why does it matter? It's because attackers understand that with these blind spots, they can just bypass your existing protection. So even if you have controls like multi-factor authentication and you feel very secure because you have them on your cloud applications or your VPN or maybe things like remote desktop login, attackers understand that they just need to find one system or one protocol that is not protected, and that's enough for them to be able to go, not through the front door, but maybe through the window. And these are things like command line interfaces or service accounts or file shares that attackers are using in order to bypass identity security. As a result of this, over the last years, identity security just became almost ineffective. And it's a shame because we invested so much as organizations, right? We invested so much money and time in solving this problem. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really solved. It's a kind of the worst case situation because we are spending the resources, we are spending the time. As you said before, we're raising our blood pressure, but then effectively attackers still find these back doors, these ways around our protection. So let's talk about what did we come up with in these 8 years of work of trying to rebuild identity security. So we basically came up with an approach that we call unified identity protection. The idea, and I will explain to you also technically, of course, how it works, but the idea is that we want to enforce identity security controls everywhere. The way to do it is not to try to replace how each system is doing it, because that's not going to be possible. And we also talked about having to make it easy, right? So that's not going to work. We found a way to add identity security in the back end of the existing IAM infrastructure. So even if a company is using legacy identity solutions like Active Directory or others, we found a way to add modern identity security controls on top of it. So instead of having to replace the way your systems work or the way your users work, we found a way to enforce identity security seamlessly on top of this existing infrastructure. What this allows us to do, and I will show you, of course, how we do it, it allows us to enforce controls like multi-factor authentication, like zero trust policies anywhere, even for systems that you couldn't protect before, like legacy applications or command line tools or IT and OT infrastructure. It works for both humans and for non-human identities, so for service accounts too. It works both on-prem and in the cloud equally. By the way, not just on-prem, but it works even in air-gapped networks. So even if you have a manufacturing environment or some very sensitive network that is not even connected to the internet, this technology even works there. So you don't need to rely on internet or on cloud. And I think most interestingly, this technology doesn't require that you install or modify anything in your systems. And this is, I think, the biggest breakthrough is really the fact that we found a way to add identity security when you log into any system without having to put an agent there or to modify the way that that system works, or even to put a proxy, an inline proxy in front of it. And I know this sounds strange, right? How do we do that without all of this friction? But this is really where I think the biggest innovation of Silverfort is. And let me now show you how we achieve that. So one quick example, just so that you see what this looks like, and then I'll show you the architecture. But in this example, I'm going to show you how we enable modern multi-factor authentication. I'm going to use the Microsoft Authenticator, so Microsoft multi-factor authentication, for a legacy type of access, in this case, remote PowerShell. Okay, so this is like one of the oldest ways of accessing a system that your admins, but also attackers are using. Ransomware and attackers in general are using these types of tools. And what you will see here is that when I try to now log in with my Azure identity, my Entra identity, and log in with the Microsoft MFA. And only when I complete this login, then I'm able to complete this remote legacy access. So even though remote PowerShell is a tool that does not support modern identity, does not support cloud authentication, we were able to inject this modern control into it. Now, Microsoft MFA is just one example. This could be any type of MFA. This could be one-time password or a FIDO token or any other type of MFA from any vendor. It's less about the specific example. It's more about the capability of adding this control anywhere. Now, of course, I'll show you other controls, not only MFA, but MFA, I think, is an easy example. So now let me show you how we can achieve this. So when we look at any corporate environment, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud, you have different users and identities, whether they're human or non-human, that are trying to log into all types of servers and applications. Now, there is already some identity infrastructure in place. Some companies have legacy on-prem identity solutions like Active Directory. Some companies have cloud identity solutions. Most companies have both, right? I'm sure most of the people here on this call have both legacy and cloud identity solutions. I think that's the case for 90% of companies. And the thing is, even though the cloud identity is great, the on-prem identity is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, because a lot of our systems are stuck with legacy identity, legacy authentication. So we're probably going to have both of these types for a long time. So the question is, how do we add the same modern security not only to our cloud applications, but also for our legacy environment, for our on-prem environment, in a unified way? The way we solved it is we added a solution that sits behind the existing identity infrastructure. So when I say sit behind, this is a virtual machine. Okay, we can also deploy it as a cloud solution, but it can also be deployed as a virtual machine in your environment, whatever you select. And this solution, this virtual machine or this cloud solution, can sit in the network and basically become a second opinion behind the existing IAM infrastructure. It means that whenever someone is trying to log into Active Directory or to any one of these identity solutions, the identity solutions pass the authentication also to Silverfort, okay, in order for us to make additional decisions. How did we do it? We were able to build it using collaboration with the vendors like Microsoft and Okta and Ping and others, and using patented technology that we invented. So we invented a technology that allows us to intervene in the decisions of these identity solutions. The reason why I focus on it is because this is really the biggest breakthrough here. There are a lot of solutions in the market that can read the logs from these directories and they can show you what happened. So they give you visibility or detection. Okay, so a lot of, for example, a lot of the XDR, EDR vendors are talking about giving you detections of identity threats. I'm talking about something much more than that. I'm not talking about just detection or visibility. I'm talking about the capability to be in line, to actively intervene in the decisions of these identity solutions in real time. What this allows us to do is to apply a policy that is more active. It's not just about detection, it's also about injecting controls like multi-factor authentication. So basically, if a user is trying to log into a resource, like I showed in the short video before, Silverfort can see that the authentication is going to the directory, delay it, call an MFA prompt in the backend, so basically trigger MFA to the user, and only when we see the result, we tell the directory to finish the authentication. So by doing that, we can not only give you alerts or detection, but we can actually enforce real-time protection. Of course, MFA is just a simple example because there are cases where it doesn't work. Let's take the example of non-human identities like service accounts. I think that's, again, one of the biggest threats today, maybe even bigger. So for those, we do something differently that I'll show you in a minute that we call virtual fencing. So this is a new concept that we invented where we can control what service accounts can do with a zero trust approach. Okay, I'll explain it very shortly and later I'll show you more. But in very short, this means that we see what every service account is doing by looking at all the actual authentications. And if we learn that this service account is only connecting from this system to that system, so from A to B, we can automatically apply a policy that can only allow this service account to be used from A to B. This means that if someone steals the credentials of this service account and try to log in anywhere else or from anywhere else, so they're trying to do something outside of what the service account really needs to do, we can alert on it, but also we can just block it. We can prevent this from happening. By doing it, we can protect even huge amounts of service accounts. We have companies that have massive amounts of service accounts in a very quick way. So sometimes within a matter of days or weeks and not years of work. I'll show you that a bit more in a minute. And then the last example is something that we call authentication firewall, which is raised really a bit of similar concept, but it's not just for service accounts, also for human users and for admins, where we can learn and control exactly what they can do. Where can they log in from, where they can access, what protocols they can use. We can prevent anything that is not the desired behavior. And this allows us to actually prevent things like account takeover, lateral movement, and even ransomware propagation. Once we apply these controls, which again are all happening in line while the authentication is still happening, then we can tell the original directory, like AD, to finish the authentication. So all of this is not retroactive response to an attack. These are things that we can do in real time while the authentication is still taking place, and then tell the directory to allow the authentication. The reason why this architecture is so powerful is because if you think about this, the endpoint and the server don't even know that anything changed. They still think that they're using the same old protocol like Kerberos or LDAP or NTLM to the same old directory, and as far as they know, nothing changed. There's no proxy in between. You don't need to put an agent on your servers. You don't need to change your applications or change the code of your systems. All of your applications, all of your servers, all of your endpoints continue to authenticate the exact same way like before. There's no change to them. They talk to the legacy directory, they get a response from the legacy directory with the same protocol, and they have no idea that behind the scenes, in the backend of this directory, there's now additional decisions, additional controls that are taking place. So this is why this technology, which is patented and unique to us, is really the first way to apply identity security anywhere without modifying your systems. So we can protect anything, any of the examples I showed earlier, without the effort of changing your systems. Of course, this is not only about active real-time control. We also have, of course, alerting and logs and reports, and we can integrate with your SIEM, and we can give you a lot of insights. So there is a lot of value here in detection and reporting. The reason why I don't emphasize that is because if you only need detection and reporting, then there are some other solutions that can do that too. So if you only need passive alerting and reporting, which honestly, I don't think is what companies need these days, because there's so much alerts, so much noise that goes to your security team. More data and more alerts is good, but only if there's also some automated response that come with it, some real-time protection that comes with it. I don't think that detection alone is enough these days, because attackers are just too fast and too automated. As a side note, I think that will become even more important when AI will become more dominant in cybersecurity, because attackers that are using AI will run attacks that are much faster because they are fully automated, right? So attacks that use AI will be happening within seconds or minutes, not within days. And then alerts and detection will just be almost irrelevant, because the attack already finished by the time that you detect an attack. So I think it's all going to be about real-time prevention and real-time protection. So this is really why I'm emphasizing this. So now let me show you a few more examples of what we can do. So just a few parts of the product, and then let's open it to questions. So I'll make sure to only take a few more minutes, and then we'll open it to questions from anyone. And again, I'm sure you can already get some questions and answers on the chat, but let's do also some live ones. So the last thing before that is just a few more capabilities, and I will start from what we can do for service accounts, because as I said, I think it's maybe the biggest priority issue for a lot of the enterprise that I'm talking to when it comes to identity security. Because human users may already have some protection, most of the non-human identities have nothing today. So with service accounts, we really thought about the whole journey. It starts from discovery. So first of all, Silverfort has the ability to map all the service accounts in your network. Not only the ones that you know about, so not only the easy ones that have some naming convention or they're in the right groups, right? We also detect the ones that you had no idea about, where maybe one of your admins was using his personal account to run some application or scheduled process. We will find them because we use machine learning to find this behavior, the non-human behavior. And we will show you that these accounts, even though they look like human accounts, they're actually being used to run some application or some process. Once we map all of these accounts, all of the service accounts, we will show you where they are being used. This is maybe even more valuable because some companies already know who those service accounts are. I think almost always they miss some of them, but some companies do know a lot of them. What I think no company knows today is where all of these accounts are really being used. You may think that it's only this one application that uses this account, but maybe there are 5 other systems where somebody reused the same account and you will not know about it. So if you try to rotate the password on one application, you're going to break these 5 other systems because you had no idea that they're using the account as well. We will find all the places where the account is being used. So we will show you all the sources and all the destinations. I think this is by itself, before we even talk about enforcement, this is very valuable to our customers. And then most importantly, we will help you actually enforce zero trust and least privilege policies. This means that we will find that if this account only uses to log in from A to B, then we will automatically recommend that it should only be able to log in from A to B. And even if somebody will steal this account, they will not be able to do anything else. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, we saw an attack on one of our large customers in the US, and this is a large financial company, very large, Fortune 500 financial company that was attacked by a group called Scattered Spider. It's the same group that attacked MGM, so maybe you heard of them. And this group uses a lot of techniques like social engineering. They trick some of your employees to give them access, and then they spread ransomware inside the network. In this case, they were able to trick some employees and find some privileged accounts, and they were already in the network. And they found a privileged service account. So a service account that had domain admin privileges. Now, in this point, it is normally game over, right? Because if you have a privileged service account that is compromised, it's done. But because of Silverfort, we were able to restrict this account to only do what it needed to do, which is log in from A to B. So this group couldn't really cause any damage with this account. They couldn't really take over the network or spread. And when they tried to move to other accounts, they found those same controls that Silverfort had that either triggered MFA or just blocked them from doing what they wanted to do. And we were effectively able to contain the attack to those few accounts that were initially compromised, and they couldn't cause any damage. When the incident response team came in, they said this is really the first case they've seen where somebody was able to stop this group of attackers while they were already in the network. So, this is an example out of many examples of why this is so effective, why this really is able to save a lot of companies. And we've stopped a lot of ransomware attacks on a lot of our customers with this same approach. So let me now show you another thing that we can do. And the other thing that we can do is around visibility and insights. I do think, even though I kind of downplayed it a little earlier, saying this is not enough, I will say this is important. So visibility is the first step in protecting anything. You can't protect what you can't see, right? So you need to know where the risk is before you can really solve it. So one of the things that we do is we map all the places where you have a risk around your identity, and we also help you prioritize it. So we will show you accounts that have too many privileges. We will show you shared accounts that people are using, a few different people are using the same account. We will show you accounts that still use legacy protocols. A lot of accounts and servers are still using protocols like NTLM v1 or clear text LDAP. Things that are really insecure, and it's very hard for organizations to understand where these things are. Which systems are still using these old protocols, which accounts still have old passwords, which accounts have maybe locked accounts, which accounts have all kinds of vulnerabilities and bad behaviors. We will find them and we will show you them and we will prioritize them for you. We can also issue an executive report or a scheduled report if you want, either to a PDF or to a PowerPoint, because we know maybe you want to incorporate into your own template. So you can even export it as a PowerPoint and be able to show your executives, why this is important, why you need to invest in this problem. So this is obviously important in order to then go and solve these issues. And the last thing I will say, about the product is one of the last things that we can do, and this is a bit more advanced, but I think it is important, is we help companies not only secure the different islands of identity, we also help them consolidate the different islands of identity. So if companies have, on-prem solutions like Active Directory and federation, things like ADFS or Ping Federate, and they have cloud solutions like Okta or Entra ID, we have a way to show you all of them in one place and help you migrate applications between them and connect applications between them. And this is very important because these silos, these islands of identity infrastructure, they are obviously they're a security issue, but they're also very expensive and complex to manage. So I do think that it's important that companies will be able to unify those and control those islands from one place and be able to move applications between them, take legacy applications and move them from AD to Entra or to Okta and vice versa, move it between the different clouds. So one of the advanced capabilities that we offer that are also very unique in the market, I'm not aware of anyone else who can do it, is we can actually move or help you connect legacy applications to cloud identity. So you can take legacy systems, not even just web applications, but even legacy servers or infrastructure or command line tools, and connect them into cloud identity if you want, right? Not every company wants that. Some companies actually prefer to stay on-prem, but if you want that, that's another area where we can help and just be the unified place where you see and you control your different silos or islands of identity on-prem and in the cloud. So I'll pause here because, I know it's a lot, right? I showed you a lot of different things. And of course, we are happy, me and Abhinav and the team to show you more. But this is some of what we do with the product. The last thing I will say before we open it to questions, and Abhinav started talking about it, but I will also emphasize, is how we view the market in India and in Asia Pacific. So, I think a lot of companies that start in the US or the European markets don't really go and put the people on the ground in these areas. And we believe that the right way to do it is to really have local teams in India and in the region in order to support our customers. And that's what we've done. So in every one of these countries, India included, we've hired local people, and we are going to continue to hire more in order to provide you with local support, local engineers, local people that you can talk to, because we believe that is the key to making our customers successful. And that includes, obviously things like support, but also customer success, people that help our customers use the product and get the most value out of it. So we are very committed to continue to hire more people in the region. We are, again, growing very fast, so it's luckily we have the ability to do that. And we already have some very large customers in the region, in Asia Pacific, some of the largest banks, some of the largest telco companies. We have a lot of partners. So we have I think about 75 local partners in Asia. So we are very committed to investing in this area. I'm going to come visit more and more, and we really will be very happy to partner with you and to help you, and also to get feedback from you on what should we do in order to answer your needs and to be successful in this region. It's very strategic to me. I believe that there's massive potential in the region, but especially in India. So I would love to talk to people here who want to talk more, and get feedback from you on what is the right way to do it and what do we need to do in order to meet your expectations. And again, very excited to have this opportunity to talk to so many of you, and appreciate you taking the time. So now let's open it to some questions, right? And see what you guys want to hear more about.